Welcome to the Limitless Energy Podcast, and it's my pleasure today to introduce my guest, Mike Postel, founder and president of Connexa Energy. It's basically a remote power company based out of Texas with a focus on solar. Welcome.
Thank you.
So you're an interesting guest because in terms of solar energy, you've been doing this for quite some time. When did you start the company?
So we've been around since 2006.
2006. And before that, were you involved in solar projects at all?
Actually, it began in 2006 for us, yeah,
Okay, in Texas.
in Texas.
So what was the solar industry like in Texas at the time?
I think 2006 was a little bit early for 2008 is whenever I feel like it really started, expanding rapidly. So in 2006, we were using it to power cameras. I had an IT company, and we were doing projects in remote areas, construction sites, things like that. And we needed power, so that's how I got into it, is learning about how to power these devices. And 2008 came, and that's whenever, there was just a lot of expansion of solar, including us. And we spent a little bit of time, in some of the traditional solar applications like residential, commercial, and whatnot. But ultimately, it just ended back to more on the industrial side where we're powering electronics in remote areas.
What was it about 2008 in Texas? Or was it sort of a national thing, or was
a
it
national
specific?
thing? Yeah,
Okay.
big Go Green movement, where you just had a lot of money and investment in the green sector.
And maybe the decrease in cost in solar as well had
Yeah,
something to
yeah.
do with it. It was around that time we were talking, I don't know, $5-6 a watt.
Used to be, yeah.
Yeah, and after that it sort of dropped pretty rapidly to about $1 a watt, right?
It did, yeah. Solar has been coming down, I would say, consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So with your early projects, what fraction of them were solar when it came to remote power?
So I would say at the beginning, all of them.
Okay.
And we've, over the years, working with different industrial groups, have expanded our line of offerings to be outside of solar to some degree. But I say our core product is still solar, but at the beginning, it was all solar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we were doing, some niche areas of solar, like solar water pumping applications. We did a little bit of work in wind turbines at one point, but ultimately, battery-based solar has been our core product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your background a little bit. And this is nice for me because you're an Aggie,
Yep.
Texas A&M Aggie. My first faculty job was teaching at Texas A&M. I was there '01 to '03 about. And when were you
Yeah.
there?
2000 and 2004.
Okay, that's awesome. So we did overlap.
We did.
I don't know if you ever saw my band at Fitzwillies.
I might have.
Yeah, I hope so. We were
Yeah.
pretty good. We were pretty rocking band back in the early 2000s. But what was your major?
Ag economics.
Ag economics. Is that relevant to what you're doing now, or a bit of a stretch?
With the economics part, I would say we do service some of the ag industry, not a lot, but yeah, I would say the economics part for sure.
And how did you like A&M?
Oh, I loved A&M. From being from Houston originally, it was a really common place to go, and I enjoyed my stay there and the community around it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun place to be.
Yeah.
It's very much a college town. Actually, it's really different now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Going back there is completely different.
And well, you're based in Austin, right? Are you? No, you're outside Austin.
Yeah, so our facility is based out of, I would say, Austin, San Antonio, but more San Antonio, and the Texas wine country, and a little town called Comfort, which is up in the hills, yeah, west of San Antonio on Interstate 10, and I live in Austin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you get any? You get any crap for
A
being an
little
Aggie?
bit, yeah, a little bit.
So as you graduated in ag economics, you said your family was in the steel business.
Yes.
Is that where you started your career?
I did. I worked with them, here and there, different types of jobs. Growing up, really, that's all we knew is the steel business.
And how did that evolve into what you're doing now?
So I would say business and being an entrepreneur is in our blood. It's what we've just been raised with. So I went to A&M. I tried to escape it briefly by being a pilot. So out of A&M, I was a helicopter instructor and flew airplanes. Eventually just ended up opening an IT company, and it evolved to what we have now. But yeah, so tried to escape it, wasn't successful.
So you, as an IT professional, you found the need for remote power, and so you addressed it with your entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, there's a lot of devices, even more now than there was back then with the IoT movement. But we're launching electronics, in every category, everywhere. And so there's a need to power them easily, to have it, to have these devices easily deployed. And so that's what I would say the core of what we do is we enable the rapid deployment of those, rapid and easy deployment of electronics. Yeah.
And how did you get the company off the ground? How'd you finance it?
At the beginning, luckily didn't require a lot of capital. It started IT. That was, it wasn't like hardcore manufacturing or anything like that. So just began and let it evolve over time. And of course, when we got into more rapid growth, financing it became harder. Still is, we're in a growth phase, but yeah, I would say natural evolution on it.
How has your customer base evolved over the years? You do a lot of oil and gas now, but
we traditionally have done a lot of oil and gas, and we still do.
Okay.
We have been in the commercial sector in recent years. I'd say that we're kind of following the trends. We do a lot of the security industry now, so really anything that's electronics deployed out to remote areas or anything that's portable that needs to be moved around, we're primary power using solar. And so, yeah, I would say traditionally it was oil and gas, and it still is a lot of oil and gas. We are expanding in oil and gas, but it's a lot of other ones as well.
And are you mainly in Texas or national?
So we ship nationwide and worldwide, but we're based out of Texas only. Yeah.
Is most of your business in Texas?
We have a lot of business in Texas, but we do ship regularly nationwide, I would say. And then depending on the year, it might be worldwide, more or less frequent.
Over the last 16 years that you've been doing this, then how has the industry evolved?
It's definitely changed. Well, solar has come down in price a lot, and that's changed a lot of things. I would say that in recent years, there's been a big, interest in storage. We've been a battery-based storage, solar since the beginning. All of our solar power systems generally are battery-based. And so, but there does seem to be a pretty heightened interest in that area nowadays. And with the IoT movement, where everything connects to the cloud, as well as AI coming into the public's grasp at the edge, at these sites where the systems are becoming smarter, there's a need for more and more power. And so, I would say that it's been increasing, rapidly.
So more power is really needed because of the increased computational requirements.
Exactly. Yeah. Back in probably the old days, there wasn't as much going on, and now there's a lot more going on, and there's going to be even more going on at the what we call the edge, which is right at the site.
Yeah. At the edge. That's funny because that's kind of a new term for the grid edge, which is at the residential level. That's the edge of the grid, but you're actually you're off grid and you're at the edge in a remote fashion.
Yeah, and I would use the term edge versus the cloud. Where are the where's that processing taking place?
I see. So okay, so grid edge in terms of the grid edge, we're talking about power, but you're talking about where the computations actually happen.
Yeah.
So you have AI computations happening remote.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's say you had an industrial.
At the cloud. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you had say an industrial process site going on, or whether it be oil and gas, anything. There's more and more automation happening at that site, and so those decisions are being made what we call at the edge, and then there's other decisions that are being made in the cloud. So that's where you get your communications
got
link.
it.
Yep.
Okay.
And so we're going to power the computers at the site as well as the communications equipment to get the data back to the cloud.
Okay. So it's important that the computations be completed and the decisions be made without having to rely on a cloud. Is it still connected to a cloud?
Yes, generally. Some people have private networks and they're going back to their private servers. I'd say that it seems like most people are really migrating to the cloud, but that's exactly right. That's one of the considerations is if that link fails, can you still run the site? And in which case that needs to be done at the edge. But there are certain things that cloud power is better at, looking at and coming up with more macro conclusions on the data sets.
Sure, but when you need speed, that has to be done at the edge.
Yeah, I would say in general. Yeah.
What are the industries, because you've done a lot of oil and gas, you said, what is it specific there that they would require so much computational capabilities there on site?
Looking at, these systems are looking at more and more data points, more and more sensors, and then coming up with conclusions to make it more efficient, and also try to predict problems that might be coming up on the site to avoid maybe a shutdown in the oil and gas case. So things of that nature.
Is that specific to oil and gas, or is it common in other industries as well?
I think it's there's a lot that can go wrong in oil and gas, so I think it's probably pretty important there, but other industries as well. There's a lot of what we do is increasing in ag. There's a lot of ag tech coming out that's pretty neat. So I think just AI is changing things and definitely the future, but having that done at the site, we enable that to happen. Yeah.
Okay, you're facilitating remote AI. I didn't realize that's an interesting niche, actually. This is power specifically for these power hungry IT applications, and your background was running an IT company, so that's really what's evolved, is the computational capabilities and the extra power that's required.
Yep.
And it's being applied to these remote industries like oil and gas. That's really interesting. How do you see this evolving in the future? Is this going to become more prevalent for other sort of remote industries?
I think so. We focus on remote and portable in general, and so there definitely is an increasing trend towards more and more devices everywhere. Really, we focus on the remote part about it, but this IoT movement has been putting pieces of electronics, whether they're big or small, almost everywhere. It's like, used to you had a refrigerator, now you have a smart refrigerator. It connects to the cloud. So we're seeing that trend, across the board and across the industries.
Let's talk a little bit about Texas and the renewable energy industry in Texas, which is enormous. Texas has an enormous amount of solar and wind. How has the state of Texas led the way in this area?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of sun, and
that's requirement number one.
Yeah, ironically, we have a lot of oil and gas companies, and ironically, solar, I think, was kind of. I feel like, back in the old days, we have a guy that's worked for me for a long time, Alex Berg, and there was a lot of oil and gas companies back in the day, in the old school solar. So they've been doing it a long time. So I feel like there's been a lot of solar in Texas before it was cool, if you will. But yeah, we have a lot of solar farms going in. Of course, there's a big interest in renewables. We have a great state for it. So you have a lot of people talking about it as well.
Well, generally, folks think about solar and wind as replacement for oil and gas, right? So that we use more renewable energy, we stop burning fossil fuels. But in this way, you're actually facilitating. I mean, we still need fossil fuels, right? I mean, that's not going away ever completely, but it is ironic that you actually do need more renewable energy and remote energy in order to even facilitate the industry.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. You have a lot of electronics that are just doing more and more jobs, and it's just what we do, especially in our little small solar world, is we enable those electronics in those remote areas. Without solar, there'd be a huge reduction in the amount of electronics you could deploy to do these various jobs.
Yeah, well, that's fascinating. Let's talk about growing a company the way you have. So you started the company, you own the company, you're 16 years into it, you've been growing dramatically for some time now. When you first started, is this where you knew it was going?
No, for sure not.
Where did you see it headed?
It was hard to say back then. I felt like the Go Green movement was in its infancy, and it was hard to tell where it was going. It was evolving quickly. I felt like we evolved kind of in parallel with it. Not in the mainstream solar. We've always been in the.
That's the thing. You're not really the Go Green movement. You're the remote power, remote computational movement.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both. Yeah. So we're using the sun to primary power. Yeah.
So where did you see it headed? Where did you think that you would be at
It
this
was really hard to see where this was all going at the time. And I would say just over the years, just evolution caused this to, this situation happens, this customer comes along, and you kind of end up just following kind of your path in a way. And that's how we ended up here. I couldn't have predicted it. Yeah.
I mean, I ask because in my case, I had no intentions or no idea. I just, had a cool technology. I wanted to start a company around it, and here we are now. And it's not anywhere I never thought I'd be at this point.
Sure.
And of course, the path to get to this point is sometimes fun, sometimes awful and painful. Both. Yeah. So let's talk about your evolution from starting the company to now running this pretty big company. What are the things that you loved about it? What are the things you hated about it? I'm talking from just an entrepreneur, going through this process.
Well, there's definitely different stages where, as the founder, you do different jobs. At the beginning, you're more hands-on, and as you grow, one of the tricky things is doing the same thing through these systems that have to be put into place and these processes, and that stuff takes a little bit of time and effort to develop, and it's tricky to do, to make the time to do it and the resources to do it. But as you grow, the processes, as we've kind of learned lessons in blood, are critical. Systems are critical. And so I think, at least for me as an entrepreneur, is I have to evolve, and, growth can be, painful. It can be tricky to navigate. And me as a person, as a leader, I have to evolve with it. And so a lot of new lessons to learn all the time.
Right. The systems have to evolve. The people have to evolve. So you evolve, but there are people that actually don't, right? And sometimes the team you go in with isn't the team you end up with, just because of the evolution of the company.
Yep.
So that's interesting. Well, let's talk about batteries now.
Sure.
Because the batteries are a big part of what you guys are doing, and we're sitting here because we make batteries and you use batteries. So let's talk about the future of batteries. And obviously you've done a lot of lead acid systems, and there is, I would say, relatively, even now in its infancy, a movement from lead acid to lithium. Is that the right way to say it for today?
I feel like there is, yeah.
It's still in its infancy. We still see a ton of lead acid systems out there.
There's definitely interest by, I think, all parties. Everybody wants to talk about it, know about it, So we are seeing that's driving a lot of conversations.
For these stationary installations as opposed to mobile installations, weight is less important, right?
Generally, yes.
Generally.
Yeah.
What do you see as the differences that lithium brings that can really make these systems better?
I think the overall cost, the lifetime cost of the product, for us specializing in remote areas, to send a crew to a job site can be quite costly. Sometimes it's 2 people, a truck. Some systems are helicoptered on top of a mountain, so less time before you have to do any maintenance or replacement is a pretty big deal for us.
So you service these systems as well?
We don't personally, our company service them. Generally, that's integrators in the field, but
okay. But by you're selecting the battery that goes into it, or is it mainly the customer that selects the battery?
So we generally make recommendations, and the pros and cons of each, and let the customer decide. Yeah.
So how much system design do you guys do?
A lot. Yeah. Every project gets system designed. So we're putting our eyes on it, running it through our calculations, and making sure that what we say it's going to do, it will do. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, I will end by saying we look forward to working closely with you in the future.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Mike Postel, Connexa Energy. Thank you for joining the podcast today, and be sure to subscribe on any of your favorite listening platforms.